We'll have Dr. Constance Ikoku here, an analyst, a journalist. Constance, you're welcome. It's going to say Ikoku.
Thank you, yes. To review the papers this morning with us, we have Chuks Akuna. He is the Executive Director of Authority newspaper. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you very much for having me. Good morning.
Hello there, welcome to the program. So we'll begin with This Day newspaper. In This Day, moderation in food prices eases inflation to 32.15%. And oil marketers, it makes no sense for NNPC to sell locally sourced petrol higher than imported fuel. We also have WTO Chief Okonjo-Iweala seeks second term to complete unfinished business. And then Tinubu reschedules U.S. trip to visit Maiduguri. He pledges help for Borno. So let's settle on the moderation in the easing of inflation. The Consumer Price Index, which measures the rate of change in prices of goods and commodities, declined to 32.15% in August, compared to 33.40% in the preceding month. The fall is attributed to decline in average prices of tea, cocoa, coffee, yam, milk, palm oil, Irish potatoes, etc. I mean, it's a marginal decrease in inflation, as we see from information from the National Bureau of Statistics. It's very small. The question then is, will this hold up? Because you need a steady decline over a period of time to see the impact on overall well-being, Chuks, isn't it?
Exactly, and we should not also lose focus of the fact that we're in harvest season. You know, if you drive around town, you see every nook and cranny of the city. You know, you see people selling maize, roasted corn, either roasted or boiled. You know, coconuts and stuff. And we also have granuts, you know, peanuts, this harvest season. So several food crops, you know, new yam is out. So that's, you know, literally led to the decline of food prices generally, and of course, you know, eased inflation, and that's according to the National Bureau of Statistics. So, but you know, it's farming in Nigeria, particularly crop production in Nigeria, is a seasonal affair. So, you know, from April, people start planting. You know, once the rain starts, people start planting, and then, you know, from July, August, September, you know, they start harvesting, and we'll have more crops to harvest. Like crops like guinea corn will come like later in the year, about November or December. So, but then, you know, it's a cycle. Then from January again of each year, you start seeing food prices steadily climbing, because that's the peak of the dry season. So not many farmers are able to farm during the dry season.
Right. I mean, when we also look at this article, it says that, you know, inflation is usually severe in states that are, you know, up far north. So, for instance, Kebbi, Bauchi, and Jigawa. I mean, this points to the uneven distribution of, you know, this kind of problems and the regional disparity that we see in the levels of poverty and the quality of life. Ndi.
Let's be clear. It's about 1.25% increase, just August and July. But on annualized basis, the core income, the core inflation is still on the rise. And even as we speak, the core inflation concerning, it's not on the rise because house rent is rising. Chuks talked about food. Food is still rising. Bread, yam, all that is still rising. So on those bases, we have to take this, I don't know.
With a pinch of salt?
Pinch of salt or pepper, if you like. So marginal. That's just month to month, but on annualized basis, the core inflation is still high, particularly the one that concerns people, which basic necessities like bread, yam, the things that people buy on a daily basis.
Well, statistics by the NBS, so we'll be seeing. Let's move on to Punch newspaper. In Punch this morning, a couple of top stories again. 950-litre Dangote petrol may justify more importation, according to marketers. There's also petrol crisis threatens election as APC, PDP set for showdown. Again, Tinubu visits Borno. We also have here NLC, Abure-led NWC reject new LP faction. So according to marketers, they faulted the NNPC for off-taking all of Dangote petrol. They said this would not encourage competition. And they also say that the pricing, doesn't justify anything. I mean, we should be having lesser prices. I mean, at the end of the day, the construction of the Dangote refinery, a refinery of that size, the largest single train refinery in the world. Now it's price wars after the construction. We did think that this will solve all Nigeria's petrol problems, but it is a business, and that's what we are seeing, Chooks.
Yes, exactly. We have to go to the United States where, of course, the largest consumer of petrol and of energy. There are over 130 refineries in the U.S., but that has not translated to cheaper petrol prices in the U.S. And there's this narrative which is very, very unfortunate. Nigerians, seem to think that the NNPCL and Dangote are at war. It's like thinking that NAFDAC, the agency in charge of restriction of drugs and food in Nigeria, being at war with the pharmaceutical manufacturer. And the last time we checked, NNPCL has about $1 billion in stake in Dangote refinery. So it wouldn't be in the best interest of the NNPCL for Dangote refinery to not to work out. So that said, it, like you said, I think your closing remark, Dangote refinery is a business and it's a privately run business. So when people talked about thinking that prices are going to crash because Dangote has started production, it's amusing because we have to look at that vis-a-vis international trade. Petroleum and crude oil is an international business, and it's very, very difficult to actually say because somebody is now refining petrol in Nigeria, that will lead to the crash of the pump price of petrol across Nigeria. I mean, the reality is dawning on us.
A big disappointment for some Nigerians. Nkechi, do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think this whole Dangote refinery and fanfare was actually sold to Nigerians as sort of our ticket to self-sufficiency. And if I understand what Mr. Akuna is saying about business and making profit and Nigerians not expecting to just have cheaper petrol because Dangote has opened a refinery. However, I think another big issue is that lack of transparency. This whole shrouding or hiding of the pricing, the way that the petrol is going to be priced. And also when you talk about deregulation by definition, you shouldn't have a single player calling all the shots like we have NNPC doing now. Yes. So I think that secrecy behind the whole pricing is what's giving Nigerians a headache. Just come out and tell us, look, this is what it's going to be. This is how we're pricing it. They're still going back and forth. We bought from Dangote at 898. Dangote hasn't said what they bought for, and that's just where Nigerians are now. But I think Nigerians have taken the fact that, look, we're still going to be buying petrol at more than 1,000 naira per liter, and it's just sad.
Right. Let's move on to the Guardian. A lot of stories on the front page, but let's look at this one. Review inevitable, says LASG, as parents kick against 300% hike in model college boarding fees. The information here is that hostel fees were unilaterally increased from 35,000 naira to 100,000. Parents say studies indicate the current fees are enough for hostel needs. There's no justification for the increment. The school authorities counter, saying they're unable to provide services at the current rate. I mean, everyone is under immense pressure in Nigeria today, both parents and service providers, because of the general rise of everything due to inflation. But what should worry the government probably is the affordability of education. You do not want kids dropping out of school because parents cannot afford, whether it's school fees, whether it's boarding fees, whatever it is a problem for society, Chooks.
I think those parents are not being fair to themselves. We all have children in schools, and we know how much private schools charge. It's literally impossible for you to feed a child for 35,000 naira. I mean, let's be fair. You know, when people say that it's only petroleum products that are subsidized in Nigeria, I tend to disagree with them. If you go to our public schools, you see that our public school system is heavily subsidized, you know, everywhere, you know, around particularly in the FCT and Lagos, states like Lagos. So for those parents who are complaining that, you know, it's now 100,000 naira, you know, I don't think they're being fair to themselves, because to begin with, the children of the poor hardly find spaces in such schools, such model schools. It's really the children of the rich. You see, the rich, they're already rich. I have thought that such schools would be for those, for indigent pupils. But then we still find out that rich people are putting their children, their wards in such schools, and they are the same persons who are complaining that 100,000 naira is too much. I mean, if you want to feed, if you go to a restaurant today to actually have a meal, you know, no matter how cheap the restaurant is, you will be able to eat with less than 1,000 naira per meal in Nigeria. That's the reality. So I think what the schools are not only for government in Lagos, but I think they are just being realist. They say, okay, how much can we actually peg this at? 100 naira, to me, it's a fair deal by the Lagos state government.
Your point on subsidy chicks, and I'm going to ask you, Ndi, what is wrong with subsidizing essential, crucial services in a country? Every country decides what is necessary to be subsidized. Is it a bad word, really? I
totally disagree with you. Totally. Because in Rwanda, for example, as far back as, 10 years or so, public schools are the in thing. That's one. Private schools are even begging for parents to register in private schools. Now, that's a policy. Now, public schools here seems to have been bastardized. Neglected. All right, government, you can say, okay, the Lagos government says it's paying free education to primary stuff. Fine, good. But when this goes back to the policy of government urban issue, everybody is suffering. The parents are bearing the brunt. Government can handle it. They have resources. So why increase more than 100%, for God's sake, for crying out to 35,000 to 100,000? Now, I don't know what the model schools are like when you were talking about rich enrolling there. But this whole thing smacks of real insensitivity, even though Lagos state government says it's a choice.
It's a choice.
But the parents said they presented a forum, how they can feed their children, and government said nothing about it. Frankly, I don't understand how this happens. I don't really understand.
Just quickly, I think it's unfair for the government to say it's a choice if you want to put your child in boarding house, because in a place like Lagos, overpopulated, traffic woes, unpredictable public transport, the choice is not that simple for some parents, some working parents who want to give their children a decent education, and then you claim to provide free education and you have these hefty add-ons on it, and it's just not fair. It's not a simple choice to just say, look, I'm sending my kids to boarding school. There are factors that contribute to this.
Well, I mean, it also speaks to, rethinking and reimagining the investment that we have to make on education. It is a crucial part of a sector of society that cannot be neglected. Let's move on to New Telegraph. In New Telegraph, Guba, Tinubu didn't sign peace accord. Committee can't force Edo PDP, says Kuka. So candidates and political parties that do not sign political accords to shun electoral violence are sending wrong signals, according to Bishop Matthew Kuka. In the upcoming Edo election, PDP has refused to sign, and he also said that President Tinubu did not sign the accord when he was a candidate. Do you agree with the bishop on the point on sending wrong signal by not signing this accord, Chooks?
Yeah, exactly. But you have a theory and you have practice. There are those who signed this accord in the past, but we also know what happened thereafter. It's not enough to say you're signing. You have to be committed to this signing. You have to be committed to pursuing peace. Before, during, and after the elections. And sadly, like as Bishop Kuka pointed out, President Tinubu did not do well in 2023. Because 2023, he refused to sign. He even refused to go for a presidential debate at the time, to stand for presidential debate. And people said, it was wrong at the time. But two wrongs they say don't make it right. I have thought that PDP, being a more what they call a Democratic Party will have just gone ahead to sign that peace accord, at least for the optics.
Right. Let's move on to the international headlines and see what we have for you. We'll begin with Daily Graphic from Ghana. Two top stories there. High voter turnout expected in 2024 elections, according to study. Then 500,000 herbalists unlicensed regulatory council begins clampdown. This is according to the Traditional Medicine Practice Council. These people are traditional and alternative medicine practitioners. They deal in healing camps, massage parlors, homeopathic clinics, chiropractic clinics, acupuncture, Ayurvedic clinics, psychic healers, herbalists, a whole lot of services and resources that people can benefit from in this country and any country at all, you know, with alternative medicine. The point then is clean them up or clean up that sector, introduce proper certification and management and elevate it. Chooks.
Yes, exactly. And I think that's what the Ghanaian government is set to do. There's nowhere in the world where people just practice as they, whimsically. And we have that same problem here in Nigeria, where people just set up shop and say they're experts in this. You know, there's no certification. That's the difference. So, like even here, when you take your vehicle to a person who claims to be an electrician, an automobile electrician, and he ends up reading your car, there's nothing you can do about it because there's no certification. That's why things are different in the West. If you go to, before you're able to practice in several countries of the West, Western countries, you have to be certified so that, I mean, this is to ensure against malpractice. When things go wrong, they're able to discipline you. So I think Nigeria needed to borrow a leaf from Ghana. We have, tons and tons of herbal alternative medicine practitioners in Nigeria who roam the streets, blaring loudspeakers and selling all manner of drugs. Yes, it's not entirely a bad thing, alternative medicine, but then regulation is very, very
would you
important.
patronize them?
I mean, I would, no.
I would.
I mean, back in the day.
Yeah, but you have to understand what they're selling and the safety conditions as well.
On. No, let's be clear.
Come on.
Our ancestors,
I'm surprised.
And parents way back, I mean, they dealt on how did they survive.
Yes.
It was basically, you go to the back of the farm, get one leaf and touch it, and that's it.
Yes.
But I agree with Chooks on what they're saying, particularly when it comes to somebody trying to hoodwink you. How do you then get reparation?
Exactly.
It's by going to court.
If it's not regulated.
That makes sense.
That thing you call bush and forest, it's full of medicine for you. It's nature for you. So
that's nature.
Nkechi, don't be shocked.
And nature heals more than even. I mean, I had a friend. Hold on, I had a friend, not a friend, my boss when I was working somewhere. He said, well, I can't put it like that now because it will go against the company. But he says, some of these drugs, what you have is just 10% anything. The rest is water. But when you talk about nature, natural things like herbs, it's spot on. But they have to be licensed. I think
exactly. I don't think the story is saying that there's anything wrong with alternative medicine. It's just saying, look, we sort of have to regulate it because now we have over 500,000 unlicensed herbalists. But I think the clampdown also, they should make it more nuanced so you don't have most of these practitioners now going underground and having to just basically hide and do what they have to do to help people.
So the next story we have is The Sun. There's this outrage over Hugh Edward. He used to be a BBC newsreader. He was called a child, he was engaged in pedophile activities. He called child sex amazing. And, all the headlines in the UK have it. This one in the Mirror, appalling. And then you have Metro, Lucky Hugh. You have the Daily Star, there's all sorts against him. And the most interesting thing is that he received a lenient, or what some people consider a lenient sentence. A 6-month suspended sentence was handed to him. And people are totally outraged about this. Quick thought, Nde.
No, what that speaks to is the importance that the judges or the courts are now placing on the safety of our children. That's what that speaks to. If you can just hand him 6 months suspended sentence over 2 years, that's what this speaks about, because really this is despicable. I mean, you're talking about children. I don't know whether he has children, but this is despicable.
Right. Well, let's move on to the Guardian newspaper. Suspect charged after apparent assassination attempt on Donald Trump. Former president calls Biden and Harris enemy within. I mean, the ratcheting of wild rhetoric continues. The gunman was swiftly made to appear in court, and he has been charged with 2 related gun crimes. This has just heightened the tension in the political space in the U.S., and it has also shined the light on the challenges faced by the Secret Service in terms of personnel, and the job is now for the Congress to make sure that they are adequately resourced. Chooks.
Yes, I mean, it goes a long way to tell about the crisis, the gun crisis in the U.S., where at every turn, Republican candidate Donald Trump will have security agents, all around him. This is happening less than about 2 months, barely 2 months after the first attempt at a election rally in the same U.S. Now his private golf course in Florida. It's very interesting. It shows how gun laws operate in the U.S. and how easy it is for people to actually obtain guns and actually hurt people. Because, there's so much worry on this because it's a presidential candidate, a Republican presidential candidate at that. But, it happens almost on a daily basis in the U.S. Very, 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 very disheartening.
You have the last word.
I think quickly, this is the second time in 2 months that someone has managed to get within striking distance of a presidential candidate and a former president. And so I think the Secret Service, what needs to be done? There has to be something done. You saw the acting director basically just saying, look, we did all we could. The Secret Service is working hard. They did their job to the latter. But there has to be a problem. Even President Biden has said it, that they need maybe more personnel, maybe they're understaffed, but there has to be a problem because in the space of just 2 months, it's quite alarming.
He did admit that they are under-resourced in terms of personnel.
Yeah, but they did admit to that they have given Trump everything security-wise to make sure that he is defended.
Clearly not working.
No, it's working because the Secret Service said all the plans they made to stem this worked. They said that at least. Biden just said they need more personnel, to be added.
Well,
that's all the time we have here on Daybreak. Thank you, Constance. Thank you, Chooks. I almost forgot your name.
Chooks Akuna.
Yep. All right, I am Ndi Amogo. Thanking you for watching. Morning Show is next.
Thanks, I'm Kitchen Nanda.